Good afternoon, and thank you for joining me. This is Kimberly Robinson Alexander, and I am the founder and executive director of the B-InPowerD Movement. And I'm here today with an amazing story. I wish I could say it didn't happen, but it did. I'm still very proud to have James Wambui and Jessica Drake here with me. We're going to discuss just a travesty, complete and total travesty. This was a regular day for James. He was doing his job. He's hauling loads back and forth the way that he always does and pulled into a way station in Middletown. He was on his way from Syracuse, New York, down to South Carolina and was swept up in an ICE raid with 12 others. James is legal. He is legally in this country. He is doing what it is that he needs to do. He is a tax-paying person, employed, who contributes to this world, who contributes to this country. And he was just released last week after much fighting, more fighting than there should have been. So I am pleased to introduce you to James and Jessica, and thank you for being here.
Thanks for having us. Glad to be here.
I'm glad to have you. James, tell us a little bit about who you are.
My name is James. I will not give you the last two names. I prefer to go with the first one. I'm a Kikuyu. In my country, my Kikuyu tribes. I moved to the United States 2022, 2021, December. And the law said if you're inside America and you can apply as AD as long as you are inside the America. If I'm not wrong, you can correct me. So I did everything they needed to apply as AD. They gave me a working permit, Social Security. I worked as a caregiver for elderly home for free for 1 year to help Americans. Then when I was doing a caregiver, at night I was doing Uber because I wanted to buy to pay my school fees for CDL. I love tracking. That is, if you cut me right now, my blood will remove tracking. I love tracking, and I went one company called the first company trained me is a Prime Inc. I went there. My trainer was a small guy, he's a short guy, he's a online guy, is a Catiosis. They know in the name Catiosis. He trained me and I became a solo driver. I started doing my work as a solo driver for the last, I think, 1 year. Then on May 12th, I was coming for Syracuse. I was heading to South Carolina. I was stopped at Midtown on a way station. And to make the matter worse, they asked me, bring the book. We have every truck has a book for either all state, and you have all permit for every state. And I knew that week is a DOT week. So I knew it does the inspection, like a normal inspection. So I was aware because before that, I passed to cut scale to check sure my weight is okay. I did all my pre-trips. My truck was okay. So I was 100%. I don't have any problem unless they check the book. They see problem. I was 100%. I'm okay. So after they asked me to bring the book, I took the book inside. Behind that building, there was ICE people hiding in that building. In front was sheriff with a uniform. They asked me, bring the book. I give them the book, give the license. I held them the license. So they asked me, wait here. Sheriff, he walked out and went behind the building. He entered on the back door and he gave ICE my license. So we are like a 4 drivers. They are waiting. So after there, they asked me, okay, come in. I entered in. I knew it either they are doing inspection or something I did wrong without knowing. After that, ICE people, they came me and handcuffed me and they told me you are here illegally. I said, I have all documents. I have working permit. I have social security. And literally, those one used to come from DHS or USIS. They are real, they are not fake. So the one guy, after they checked on DHS website, they see this guy is okay. One guy, African American, he said, no, we get paid to arrest them. He thought I don't understand English because all the time I was quiet. Because I know I have seen on online, I've been Minnesota, I've seen they are shooting even citizens. So I was afraid and I was scared. All those years I have and have never been arrested or do something to be arrested.
Yeah.
So
Before
they
you,
put me.
I want to clarify a few things. Okay,
Mm-hmm.
So you're in a weigh station. So those who don't know what those are, when you are driving heavy equipment, there's these weigh stations that you periodically have to go into, and sometimes you present your documents. Sometimes they just want to make sure that you're carrying a load that's appropriate, and then typically you're able to just continue on with your trip without a problem. So that's the weigh station that James is referring to. He has a work permit. He has a government issued security number and card. He has his valid driver's license and which is a valid CDL license, and he is employed legally in the United States. And when he was looked up, they saw that he was legal. And what was said was they get paid to arrest people. And so his legal status was disregarded. What happened after that, James?
After that, they stayed for long looking my documents online and they said this guy is okay. One guy was like, we let him go, and the other guy was no. So they took me from ICE detention, Chante, as like a 1 hour, 30 minutes or 2 hours.
So they took him from Middletown Way Station in Virginia north to the Chantilly ICE processing center, detention center up in Chantilly, Virginia, for the first part of the ride. James, can I add one quick thing?
Mm-hmm.
I just want your audience to know, Kimberly, that in February, Governor Spanberger, the new Virginia governor, signed HB 1441, which actually bans it limits law enforcement partnerships in the state of Virginia with ICE. It doesn't completely ban it, but it does put some real strong restrictions, especially on what we saw James go through at the weigh station. They really are only supposed to be assisting federal agents when a judicial warrant is provided. There would not have been a judicial warrant for the activities that happened in Middletown that night. And so that means that the sheriff of the area was directly deciding to not adhere to Governor Spanberger's legislation. James, you were talking about going to Chantilly when I interrupted you.
Yeah. After they take me, some of them, they went back to my truck to search my truck without my consent. Mm-hmm. There is some few things I cannot see it inside the truck. I had a phone with my one phone. They stole my shoes. They took my passport. And they stole some other things inside the truck. And they searched my truck without my consent. Then I think that one happened after we left to the way station. Because even right now, I've been looking those stuff and never seen it. And after they took me to a farm field detention center, Colic Civics.
So that was Farmville
the same night.
Is 4 hours south, right, James? You were in the car for about 4 hours after Chantilly?
Yeah. The short woman was driving the, I can call it a sprinter. It's like a sprinter. I asked her 4 times, hey, excuse me, how long far we are going? Because this handcuffs is very tight for me on my right hand. because even right now, as we speak, this finger and this one, I still feel a nervousness because the handcuffs was tight. Because as we arrested, no fight, nothing is peaceful. I did not fight back or anything. I was the whole time quiet because I have witnessed those guys shooting people. So I did not want to engage or fight or something. So after that, she stopped 3 times. She stopped from buying breakfast. I asked, hey, how long are you taking us? Because this handcuffs is very tight. She did not say anything. She lied to us. He said 5 minutes. I said, I'm a truck driver. I know how to calculate. And I know how the distance already you have taken us is more than 2 hours. Even I don't have a GPS. Then she stopped me McDonald's to use bathroom. I said again, how long far are you taking us? Because this handcuff is so tight. She said 5 minutes. The handcuff is still on my hand and is very tight. Then she stopped for the gas. I said, it's enough. If you don't loosen these handcuffs, I'm going to start making noise. Then after gas station, I think is from gas station to detention center was like 10 minutes. Then after she get outside from detention, before we enter the building, I asked, can you loosen these handcuffs? He told me, already you are here. We are going to remove those handcuffs. Then they start the process. They ask us to shower. We are okay with that. I did not, from there, they process us to book us in. The problem started there when I was inside because I used to record. They asked,
I'm going to interrupt you for a second, James, because I want Jessica to chime in with a little bit of the backstory, but I want to point something out. There's humanity in letting humans be humans, right? There is. I've always said, even on your worst day, you did nothing wrong, but even if you had, on your worst day, you deserve to be treated with humanity. So here's a person who is sitting in a paddy wagon, a sprinter type van, going to wherever they're taking you, and you have someone who stopped to use the bathroom, but you didn't. You have someone who stopped to eat, but you weren't offered. No. You have someone who was in pain, and you were disregarded. And as humans, we are fallible. So even if you had done something wrong, which I'll say again, you didn't, why do we have to treat human beings as less than such? And it's such a sad thing to see that even in this day and age, we are incapable of seeing the humanness in human beings. I want to stop right here because you told us about the initial insult, but there is a long history that you have with Jessica and the couple family and the people who have now become your family. And I wanted Jessica to chime in and tell us a little bit about that and how she knows you and why she's been 10 toes down since this started.
Thanks, Kimberly. Oh, James and I come from a place of common understanding. We are by nature Jim Koppel's children. My dad, Jim Koppel, and his wife, Colleen, brought their work of Strategic Applications International to Kenya almost 2 decades ago, where they were helping at the time with an employment crisis of youth in Kenya, which James would have been a part of in that space. But as they began their work, they saw a great need in the Horn of Africa, especially around famine and access at the border of the Sudan near the Kakuma refugee camp. And their hearts were called to begin Servant Forge, which is a nonprofit that's always focused heartily on the implications of gender-based violence, and then also the prevention, education around prevention, and support of women in Kenya. They have long supported New Scent Center, which is an orphanage for girls who are victims of sexual-based violence as well as just gender-based violence crimes. They've been long outspoken in the anti-FGM movement in Kenya, which is female genital mutilation, which James's own tribe still has a conservative sect that practices that. And in that time working in Kenya, my dad needed someone who could navigate the space well, who could help him understand cultural areas that were different, new, and nuanced. Americans bring a lot of confidence to the foreign worlds, and we have no right to. And so my dad was acutely aware of the fact that to do the good work, it had to be Kenyan-led, Kenyan-driven, and James was part of his team. Sometime into that work, I started going to Kenya to help and serve in the team, and James and my father had met, and we were always hearing stories about this guy, Googs, which is his nickname. And Googs had a long, lengthy driving history of having done long-haul busing in Kenya for a long time. He was regularly trained by our own contacts in the United States to help us manage our security in Kenya. We brought agents like Regional Director Tony Colson to Kenya to train James and others to help as we brought volunteer groups in to lead efforts in Kenya to both educate Americans, but also raise money, awareness, and then hopefully leave behind something better to the Kenyans that we were working alongside with and serving in Turkana County at the border of the Sudan. In that county, we created a farm. We started with 1 acre and the hope and the prayer that we could farm in an arid environment. Today, they have a huge farm with multiple fruit trees supporting the livelihood of hundreds of women and their children with what's grown there. And this is all initiatives that James took part of, helped alongside of, and brought effort to, and also made volunteers feel safe coming there. Kimberly, do you have any siblings?
I do.
Where are you in the order?
So I have 11 siblings, and I am the second to the oldest on my mother's side and the oldest on my dad's.
So then you understand what it is to have younger siblings.
I do.
So I've been a younger sibling my whole life, my older sister Jamie, and I have 6 step siblings. So, but my sister is 6 years older than me. When James came into my life and my dad and James grew so close, and coming to Kenya quickly meant that James was keeping me in the know, understanding, and safe, but he was also exposing me to things that were outside my comfort zone to help me grow as a person, but also to tell the story of the work that we had to tell. James led me through all of that. Having grown up in a slum in Kenya called Lunga Lunga, James did not grow up in a way that anyone who's possibly listening to this might fully understand. He has been a survivor, a politician, a negotiator, a kinsman, a father, a husband, and a son to so many, and a brother to many. And I'm lucky to say that I inherited a little brother, but with that, I inherited a little brother. Which means that from the first time I met James, he and I poked at each other all the time. And we loved to, James can always make me laugh, but he could always make me want to pinch him too. And I see that Coy smiling, you know him, right? I always look for James in the crowd, just like Mr. Rogers said, to look for the helpers. That's James to me. But also, I think a few of these gray hairs might also have been associated with him. Nothing is more fun than getting into good trouble with James.
Amen. Amen. You know, it's beautiful to hear you and your dad talk about the relationship that was built, and your dad Jim, he says James has saved his life at least twice. And
Correct.
you know, I feel like it brings another layer to this story for someone who is courageous enough, right?
Yeah.
From what I know about Kenya, they're they're ambivalent about people coming in at the very least.
They
You're
might be
not
glad to extort environments.
right.
Mhm.
And so to be brave enough to say, I'm going to trust these people. And not only am I going to trust them, but I'm going to help them, to be that bridge between your people in Kenya and
Mhm.
those who are coming in, speaks to your courage. It speaks to your hope, your wants, and all of those things. And when you came to the US, I imagine that it was because you thought you would find a lot of that, a lot of what you experienced with the Capo family
Mhm.
here. And I hope that you found some of that. But
Yeah.
this experience has definitely not been that. So the 13th, you get to the detention center. Tell us what happened once you got inside.
Um, when I signed the papers about my clothes, my phone, and my wallet,
Mm-hmm.
I cried because I knew it. Uh, no one will come to save me. Once that door you enter, I seen a lot of men crying because they knew it. Those are asylum seekers. They knew it. Once they get in there, they'll get deported, and they don't. They'll give you a pro bono lawyers. They'll not help you if you cannot afford a private lawyer. You know very well you'll be deported.
If I
And
could interrupt James to say that James told me that when he entered very quickly, there were opportunities to get papers with pro bono lawyer names on them.
mhm,
But when people would call those phone numbers, they would be told they were on the phone with the lawyer. They'd walk through a payment process. And these were people that were in cahoots with ICE agents, could even be their family members. They would take the money, and then obviously no legal representation would happen. And then people are deported, so there's no accountability, which means there's an absolute racket of theft happening in there.
Absolutely, absolutely. And in addition to that, they also request that you self deport as well.
yeah,
Correct?
I
They,
have one friend. He signed deportation.
yeah. So just leave the country and then this is all done with. But if you do that, you can't come back. You
Yeah,
know.
They offered that to you often, didn't they, James? Self deportation?
yeah. On the way station, they told me you can sign a self deportation. I said I have a lawyer. I don't have to sign anything. So everything they were writing refusal, refusal. Because the first thing on the way station, they asked me question. They asked me, "Do you take a food stamp?" I asked them, "What is that?"
Mhm.
Because me, I know food stamp is like a free food for relief. So I asked them, inside my truck, I have food. So I don't take a food stamp. I work.
Mhm.
I'm physical healthy to work.
Mhm.
So one guy was checking me. By that time, I called Jim. I told Jim I got arrested without no reason. So you don't get a food stamp. You work, yes, and I pay tax like everybody used to do. I even pay tax more than some of them. The guy were checking each other. So then we went to detention. Detention after they give me a yellow apron. So
The
they put,
jumpsuit.
yeah, they put me in custody there for the first 2 days because I used to have a stomach problem.
Mhm.
My problem started there with the stomach and my back. Even right now, I have an appointment on tomorrow for stomach checkup and my back because before that I did not have that problem because I used to when I feel sick I have a Peps Detmo I take and I had it with me and I asked them because you don't want us to see a doctor kindly will you go to the reception get
Mhm.
my medicine there when you ask you lot I want to see a sick call will not happen
Mhm.
you lot 3 papers 4 papers 5 papers but will not happen. It's like a torture. They put the lights on, bright light on at night. they blast with you with the AC, and they give you only one blanket. And
Yeah,
you know,
Jim said that it was 60 degrees in there.
It's
more than
probably
that.
about that. I think it was colder than that. I'll be honest. So we went into the visitor spaces and it was cold. I knew it was cold because James had been telling me that. So I wore a lightweight sweater and pants. But my first thing I noticed was that every employee had the winter thick Carhartt jacket on, like the worker jacket that has the quilting inside, plus all their gear. You don't wear that all day long, that jacket, without needing that jacket. It weighs a ton. And so Jason and I, that Jason's my husband, we would guesstimate that it was about 55.
That's crazy.
Yeah,
So on top of everything else, they have your papers, they have your legal documents that you obtain legally.
correct.
They have essentially kidnapped you, and
That's
they
true.
in this place, and they're making it as uncomfortable as possible. Again, treating you as less than human.
That's true. And first, they don't follow the history of somebody. If they ask those people, American citizen born here and raised here, my history, how I worked with American, they can know I deserve even more than those who are born here. I saved more than 10 American their life. And some of them, they forced me to drive the whole night to take them to the hospital where they can get help. Because, our malaria is very serious. Like somebody grow up in America, go to another place like Kenya, our malaria is very serious. To kill you is just a blink of eye. If you are, nobody will help you and will not take care of you. I remember one day we are in Saburu with the old guy, American citizen. He was sick at night. And the place we are, he was doing the job to help FGM and help the women to start with their feet. The guy, he started shaking and sweat. So I had up to drive the whole night, non-stop, 12 hours without sleeping to save his life. And when we reached the hospital, the doctor said, a senior doctor from India, he said very well, if you do not bring this guy here, the following day he was supposed to be dead because the guy, he had his own problem before he came to Kenya. So, and he got attacked by malaria when he was there.
If I could, you asked me how we forged this relationship. I mean, I'll just pause if I can for a second with James and tell you a little bit more that it sounded like James was like ordered to do this, but this was just who he was. We had a volunteer one time get very sick in Kakuma refugee camp. Several of us got really ill. And in Kakuma, you can only, at that time, you can take an unpaved road and drive for 2.5 hours to Lodwar, where you can catch the smallest plane you've ever seen and try to fly.
It's a UN flight.
And then they switched us to these UN flights, which are not promised, not guaranteed, and the schedule's erratic, and the seating is priority. We were able to get him on the UN flight and get him home, but the care that he got really came from James the whole time. Right. James stayed by his side consistently, including in the hospital where James didn't want him to have a lack of understanding or unclarity about what's going on. James was with him. This was just who he was. But also, James knows everyone. We all know James. We all have this friend, the guy that just like you can go anywhere and he knows the guy. Also, you want that cool shirt, that great hat that, knows the guy who sells it there and there. James used to let me I'd go to Kenya and want to buy something and he would not have it. And then a couple of days later, he'd come back with it to me a quarter of the price because he had a friend, in the market who had a shop who also sold it. And the friend remembered when James had helped him do 10 things. And so this is just who he was to us. I was on a bus one night. We all got pulled over by the Kenya police. We were going to find ourselves in hot water. And I was physically counting the cost per head I was going to have to do to possibly bribe Kenya police, which we never did bribes. But I had a bus of 25 people and I didn't know how I was going to get us all out of this. And James put himself in front of all of us. Yeah. He let them escort him out at gunpoint. He sat in the back of that car. He and I trying to send each other telepathic messages about what was happening. And he got himself and all of us out of that. safely in 30 minutes. There are a lot of stories in the middle of the night on a road in Kenya that do not end the way it ended, but we were there because of James. But I also want to say that in time, I started sending Boy Scouts to Kenya with my husband, Jason, and our own children.
It was good.
And it was okay because James was going to be there.
I make them to climb to the top of the mountain.
Took him to the top of Mount Kenya.
And that is a journey for 1 week to go on top and journey to go down 1 week. And they were doing.
They did it. And my child.
Yeah. And I think some of them right now, they are army with my help. And also because, in America, is very different in Kenya. The way kids here, they are raised, different there. So I used to encourage them. And some of them, they changed permanently when they came back here through my encouragement. And some of them did, right now, they are army. Some of them, they used to say, how old are you? I said, that time I was like, that's something. Right now, I'm almost 42. They were like, you are young. Some of that time, they were 16,
he's my
17.
Older brother. I'm not.
Yeah, they are 16, 17 that time.
Yeah, I want to be very clear that I understand why Jessica interjected because you said you were made to. There was a language barrier, and so James is translating in his head like a lot of us do who speak more than one language. So, the crux of the story is that James is a good person.
The best.
James is a brave person.
He's easy to fight for.
He is accountable, and he cares about people beyond where you were born, where you're coming from, and what you look like. And he has spent his life doing that.
Exactly. Yep.
He has spent his life being a guard dog for what is right. And so, like Jessica just said, it's easy to find people to be a guard dog for him because he deserves it. He didn't deserve the treatment that he got. He doesn't deserve the upcoming court date. James should just be free. There should have been no bond. There should have been no $13,000, $15,000 in legal bills. There should not have been any of those things. There should not be permanent damage to his right hand. There should be no back pain. There should be no stomach unrest. This should not happen in a country that says, bring me your people. Right now, one of the projects that we're working on with Jim Koppel is the Freedom Fast. And the Freedom Fast is centered around the 250th anniversary of the Declaration of Independence. And every so often, James and I have the conversation, Jim Koppel. I'm going to keep calling him Jim because we have so many J's going on here.
That's why it was easy to fold James into our family.
So with Jim, I've had the conversation, and more than once. I am a Black woman in America, and I am first generation. My father was born in Panama, so he was an immigrant. And he came to this country, and much like James, he became a contributing part of our society. And the truth is that the Declaration of Independence wasn't written for people who look like me. And I believe in the Freedom Fast. I believe in what it is that we are fighting for, a better tomorrow, and still a tomorrow that we need in 2026. But then I hear stories like James's, and it makes me angry. It makes me viscerally angry to know that the only reason why he is going through this is because he is not American born and he has an accent, and because they could do it.
They could. And we let them.
And Jessica, like, what was the fight like?
It's disgusting. And it's impossible. I want it to be understood that asylum cases in America at present, only 19% are getting through the court. This time last year it was 32. There was upwards in the in the Biden administration in the 40s. But it means that even now, though the James is free, the asylum case ahead of us is a huge fight. James is also legally married here in the United States to a wonderful woman named Lynn Ann, and they're living in, you see their home behind him in Michigan. Thank goodness Lynn Ann is here to support James right now because ICE took his documents and he has literally none of his legal documents to be able to be safely a part of society right now. So he's almost trapped at home. But we are in
the situation that they accused him of in the first place.
So they literally did. Yeah, they made him who they said.
Exactly.
Even I used to ask myself a question. What's the meaning of working permit? Maybe I don't know. Maybe outside there people know.
Absolutely.
According to me, when you get a Social Security and working permit, they authorize you to work.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
And I was doing my job.
Yep.
To make this country grow.
They've literally made you indigent. They have literally created this very situation that they were accusing you of by keeping your documents, because now you are forced to be dependent on other people. But beyond that, as you continue to fight for your asylum and fight for your citizenship, it almost disables you in that fight.
Yep.
We're still having to raise money every day for James's case. So that's what I want to talk into for a minute. Mm-hmm. James and I, 6 months ago, I do law enforcement work. And 6 months ago, I had a sense that the immigration gathering was expanding. It wasn't about criminals. I mean, we all think we knew that from the beginning, but I could tell it was really going to start reaching anybody who looked different, sounded different, that could be assumed was an immigrant was going to find themselves in front of ICE at some point. And so I reached out to James early on, 6 months ago, would you say, James, and told him real quickly one day in a frantic phone call, I need to know you know my phone number. I need to know you have it memorized. I need to know you don't sign anything. These are the two things I need to know, and you know to ask for a lawyer. Say these three things back to me. And he did. And we did this at the start of every phone call for some time. Yeah. I was the first phone call, James, maybe. I don't know. Maybe called his sister first, but I think I was one of the first phone calls that he made that night he was arrested because we rehearsed this. He also didn't sign the immediate deportation paperwork because we talked about this and he knew that I would fight for him. Excuse me. So we went to work. In an instant, I realized that I didn't have the financial backing that this was going to take. I reached out instantly to city council member for Baltimore City, Mark Parker, who's a longtime friend of mine and a Lutheran pastor. I knew he had been working hard at the Baltimore Detention Center. I had been protesting to try to fight this fight. He gave me a nonprofit to reach out to, and then he laid it out for me quickly. Immigrants had to have lawyers. If they don't have lawyers, there's no chance. And he couldn't have put that more plainly and more bluntly for me so that I understood exactly what was ahead of me. That's when we instantly started looking for a lawyer and then getting the cost. I got a great deal, and my first cost was about $5,000. And then the fees just started stacking on. To get James released, we were $10,000 in on legal fees, plus another about $2,000 in the personal fees, because James didn't plan to stop paying his car bill, to stop helping with rent, to stop sending child support to his 4-year daughter. These are things that we had to do for James and were critical to do. And so we were moving on that. Talking to James was cumbersome. We were on a recorded line every time, and getting money on James's accounts was the most infuriating thing. I just want to take a small moment to say that Telemate, which is used by many private incarceration systems in the United States, is the worst system I have ever used. I have a master's degree and deployed people with computer science degrees, people who are tech savvy, and my own 16-year-old child who actually probably did the best at trying to put money on James's system. And it was an infinite loop of hell, and none of it worked. The only way I was highly successful was when I drove the 4.5 hours from my home to the middle of nowhere, Virginia, in Farmville, and visited him and was able to put money on a kiosk. But I also want to add the layers and layers of misinformation that got me to that point.
Mhm.
The system's websites were not factually accurate. It looked like you could visit James any of these certain days based on his security level. You couldn't. You had to make an appointment. Those appointments were booked weeks out. There's no public transportation to Farmville, so any families coming have to be able to drive there. There's very limited. Your phone dies about 30 minutes right before it. You stop getting reception and have to hope that you don't need to turn off the road. It's set back in the middle of nowhere and no one is watching. And the whole way to Farmville, the first time I kept thinking, who are these people that work there? Why do they work there? I was so judgmental. And then I got to Farmville, Virginia, Kimberly, and I realized there's nowhere else to work. That these people have no other opportunity, and this
Only
is an
that place.
industrial employer.
Yeah.
This is a mobile home community with a small grocery store and a postage stamp town.
Yeah.
These people are driving for miles to even have employment. I'm not victimizing them, but it was an important thing I want to share.
It's by design, though. It's by design. It's
You called it
design, and it's
Actually, one guy told me when we are talking, he was African. He told me he worked there for 13 years. That was a company. They changed it to a prison.
Yep. They told several of the guards told me when I called in. I got very friendly with the call-in line. And I also noticed that that's not something that happens a lot. They were taken aback when a white lady was on the other line going, I need to inquire about my brother, and giving his alien number and having some demands. I could tell they lie and they tell you what you want to hear. When James was going through his medical challenges, I called in really upset because he was in pain. And he called me for help, and he thought he deserved help, as I do, as we all do. And I knew it was by design to leave him in pain. The more he was in pain, the more likely he would be to self-deport, because who would survive that?
Yep.
And so I called every 15 minutes for 3 hours just to annoy the shit out of the operators.
absolutely.
James actually did see a doctor within a smaller timeline than he would have, but I went full Karen, I guess you could say, to get this, and it wouldn't work anymore after that. And he had to fill out the form, and then he had to give it to his dorm officer, and then they would review it. They'd put him in an order of his priority, and then he'd get an appointment 4 days to 2 weeks out.
It's some of this is really hard for me to listen to, because I'm going to be very honest. I've gone through this with people who are not aliens.
Yeah, the incarceration system is broken.
I have gone through much of what you're talking about with family members who were born and raised here, who may or may not have committed a crime, but it doesn't matter.
It doesn't matter.
It doesn't matter.
They need to touch their families and their legal aid.
And the other part of it is that it is it's really, really hurtful to hear how people are just pushed to their breaking point. And no, we don't want to victimize those who work at this facility, but we want to completely acknowledge that they are held captive too.
Agreed.
These privatized prison systems, they seek out these places.
Mm-hmm.
They are not put in these places by accident. They're put where people are desperate.
Yep.
Correct.
No,
You called it.
They are desperate for a way out.
Yeah.
And there are some people who are just mean and like to do these kinds of things. But by and large, I choose to believe that most of humankind is not.
I saw a group of workers who were probably people who struggled to find long-term employment, especially in that region. I saw probably a deficiency in training, and there was probably a lot of nepotism, I would suspect. You know, I work here, I can get my son, or my or you know, my friend works here and referred me. I saw people leaving and getting picked up by their family at night with, you know, their lunch boxes that we all carry in, and it all felt so unfortunate. And I want to say this one thing. One of my phone calls in, I had sort of made friends with one of the operators because she knew we were going to talk a lot. And she said, I said at one point, I broke. It was while James was really hurting. And I broke and I said, I just don't see Jesus anywhere in this. And she said, I want you to know, I was hired for facility security. I was not hired to facilitate an ICE detention center.
Wow.
And I thought that was really poignant.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, it is. It's hard to see. I used to be the director of nursing in Harrisburg, Pennsylvania, in the detention facility there. And it was
Shout out to Carlisle. That's where my grandparents are from.
And that is the immigration facility there. And about 6 months in, I broke out in full body hives, and I wasn't allergic to anything. And I ended up in the emergency room, and they couldn't find anything wrong with me. And finally they said, "Where do you work?" I said, "I work in a prison." And they said, "You need a new job." Like, they're like, "You need a new job." And I tell you, it was one of the most stressful times in my life. And it was because I chose to treat people like humans. You know, I had a staff, and I told them, I said, on charts, I don't want to see inmate. We don't have inmates in the medical room. We have patients. We are separate and apart from the prison. And, you know, every time there was a takedown and I had to show up and watch OC spray and watch how inmates were being treated, it was like a little tick, you know, and you watch people come in and be changed, and I refused to be changed. And my body reacted to that. My body reacted to my refusal to treat people bad for the sake of treating people bad.
You know, it's nurses like you that took care of James, though, right, James? I mean, you got to see nurses when you didn't get to see doctors. Am I right?
There is no way you can see a doctor. Doctor, I think, is once in a month. And nurses, they'll give the best thing they're gonna give is ibuprofen and Tylenol. When you said you have a stomach problem, back problem, they don't care. Ibuprofen and Tylenol. That's it.
That's all they're given. I don't think that they don't care. I think they probably were facing the same things that I was facing when I was in that environment. Your hands are shackled by, you know, what it is that they give you and what they give you permission to do and don't do. As a nurse, I take orders from a doctor. And when you have doctors who don't care, when you have wardens who don't care, when you have systems that don't care about the people who you're treating, it becomes really, really hard. I remember when we did med passes, they would make the nurses, I wasn't a floor nurse, I was the director, so I wasn't really passing out medication. But very early on when I took the position, I was asking, why are we crushing all medication? Like, all medicine doesn't, like, you can't crush everything.
Right.
And they were crushing all of the medicine and putting it in these little envelopes. And they would pour, the patients would pour the medicine in their hand, and this heap of powder. And they said it's because they sell them, they cheek it. Like, they had all of the reasons in the world why it was their fault that they were taking medicine the way they were. And in my head, I'm like, well, there's ways around that. We watched them swallow it. Like, you know, there were things and interventions that we could put in place to make sure that people got medication properly, but they just wouldn't.
I think James, early on, he talked to me on the phone. He called out one day during the pain, and he had seen a nurse. And whether he knew it then I heard him tell me that she told him that a lot of times she saw people's whole bodies react to being incarcerated. And that James's feelings were really, she normalized them, but not in a way that was, I didn't gather, at least, and James, you can correct me, but I didn't gather that it was unkind. She normalized it in a, like, this is part of the transition. This is what happens. I heard in his story back to me, someone tried to help him with anxiety. And that's when I said, I think there were some nurses like yourselves that helped him. I heard that although limited by care, she could at least normalize it for him. But you said something, Kimberly, that I want to speak to, if I could, for a minute.
Sure.
I worked with formerly incarcerated individuals for a lifetime ago, 10 years ago. I worked in the Safe Streets program and a job training or job placement program with Living Classrooms Foundation in Baltimore. And all of the people I worked with were returning citizens. It's the job I think about the most when I think about where I loved to be every day. But what I want to say is that what's been really interesting for me during this time is I know my privilege, and I also knew where I needed to use it for James and get voices out there for help. But I just want to make a plea. The families who are involved in these situations have no navigation. There's no tools. The amount of tools I got came from the fact that I was making horrendous amounts of Facebook videos, and I have a network who felt bad enough to reach out and say, I know someone who does this, and I know someone who does that. Many of those families don't have that. Sitting in a parking lot waiting for James to be released with our phones, walking people through broken English and broken Spanish to get people to understand how to put money on commissary because a family member had driven 3 hours to give their son shoes because he didn't have shoes in there. And I knew she couldn't take them in. I couldn't take my Bible in. She wasn't going to get her shoes in. We don't know these things. And one of the ways I learned them is I have a friend whose partner in life is incarcerated for the last year. And, you know, he did something really wrong. She called me and walked me through Telemate. She then called me and walked me through commissary, and she realized I was putting the money in James' commissary in the wrong space and got me to the right space, and then I could get everyone to space. She reviewed my letter before I sent it to see if I could get it through security. There's so many people who haven't lived this life who don't know the challenges that we put in front of people in the standard incarceration system. And then we add the ICE element to it, where there's often language and cultural barrier. These families need support. If you're bored on a Saturday, go sit in an ICE detention center parking lot and get people online. Walk them into the kiosk in the lobby. You can go that far and show them how to put the credit card in. Put your own damn credit card in. I was heartbroken at how hard it is for the families and how little access we have to the information. And it's out there, but it's not. It shouldn't be, but it is. And it's, my heart goes out to anyone in any space who's lived through this for even a second. We make it really hard.
And my plea to people who have your kind of privilege is that you keep doing that.
Yep.
Because this is, I remember visiting my brother at 16. I remember it hasn't gotten better. It's gotten worse. And I've
been doing it for 20 years and it's way worse.
Yeah. It's gotten worse in and out of the spaces. And like you, my privilege is that I understand the space, that I worked in the space, you know, it is, and it's still not any easier. No. And I say the same thing about healthcare, you know, if not for the fact that I am part of the space, I wouldn't know what to do. And it's sad in education. It's sad in the criminal justice system. It's sad in the mental health system. It is sad in healthcare that this conversation can actually be put to any one of those spaces. So if you have know-how, if you have the knowledge and you have the resources to help someone who is working through any of these spaces, any of them, please, please, please do them. We are about 5 minutes out, and we've already said more than once that this fight for James is not over. And so I want to end with, how can we continue to support you? and what it is that you need at this point.
Me as
James,
a me as a James, I'll love those one can hear me to help me to fight on my case. And right now I cannot work. I was working and I cannot work. Right now I depend with somebody get a low income, and I was the one who was helping her. I have a daughter and I have to pay her school fees, and she rely on me. I'm her breadwinner. Right now I'm look like a toothless. I cannot do anything because they took my license. I'm a truck driver. That's the job I can do without mistakes. And I have car payment, and I have to go hospital to see a doctor because I cannot lean down because I was sleeping on the metal for 2 weeks. On my lower back, I want them to check whether it's a sciatica attacked me when I was there, and also I need to be checked stomach.
So, Jessica, tell us how we can support him.
we have this website that you've so kindly shared. It's the Give Better website, the link's a little stupid, but it's /support for James.googs, GOOGZ. Then there's a bunch of numbers. I'm sure you'll share it on your spaces, Kimberly, and your followers can see it there. We have probably, I can guesstimate based on the scale of rise that I've seen with the legal fees for every part of this case, at least $6,000 more that we need. I owe another $3,300 as soon as I can pay it. I'm being asked daily for it. And I know coming forward, James's case is now going to be litigated more on paper than in the courtroom. We have 30 days to file our next filing, and then the government has 60 after that. But we also have to now enter into a big fight for his IDs. And so we need the money to help also do that, which my research shows me could be upward to $500 to $1,500 if we have to get legal fees involved. So I really think that we have a $6,000 to $7,000 fight ahead of us, and that's just legally. James needs support too. So if you can come to this page and you can donate, we're helping his daughter, we're helping his household, and we're helping pay the legal fees. Also, shout out to Michael Smallbone, his lawyer, who's doing this at the best level he can, and really meeting us where we are at with costs. I'm grateful to him, and I appreciate his help and his associate, Lily. They've really helped at Smallbone and Associates in Tennessee. So if you can, supporting James on this page is immense. Sharing our story, follow James on TikTok or myself on LinkedIn or TikTok or Facebook. Share the story, let other people know about it, and then tell your friends that this is real, that this isn't a story in the news. And for every time you've heard, I support people who do it the right way. This is what the government is doing to people who do it the right way too. We need to be loud. What's happening in New Jersey needs to be happening at every detention center in the United States. These are places of poor food, mold, bad health, unlivable situations, 55 degrees, lights on all night long with one blanket, can't cover your face, no access to family, friends. James's legal aid conversations were booked 4 weeks out, but his court date was 5 days in.
Yeah. Right.
We're setting up people for failure. Help us share the story.
Absolutely. And I will make sure that the link to supporting James and the work that is being done is shared. Share this podcast. Share this story. We have 1 hour. This is a snippet of the uphill battle, the work that is being done, and the horrific environment that James had to deal with, and the sleepless nights that the people who love him had to deal with. And it's happening over and over and over again. The scariest part is that James's story is not unique. He just has a unique set of people who love him dearly. And when you go on his page for support, you see these are not just people who know other people. These are people who know James and love James. And they're coming out in droves. And we need you to help support as well. This is not an overnight battle. This is not a sprint. It's a marathon. And it is.
And the scary part is we used to read from the books because I was not born that time. The way they transport somebody like a slave, I think that one's supposed to end. You are not a slave. You are not a criminal. They just pick you to take you somewhere you are not belong to there.
Yep.
They handcuff you on the waist and the legs, and you are not fighting. You are so quiet, literally like a slave.
Yep.
For them, they are happy when you are suffering. They are not happy when you are making this country grow.
Yeah.
Like me, I was recalling my back and said, all I've been arrested of working hard.
Yeah. Yeah.
Because me, I used to work 3 weeks, 1 week home, outside the house.
Yeah.
James, I'm so sorry that you had to experience this, but I'm so grateful that you are brave enough to tell your story.
Yeah. And also, if you have a counselor, somebody can talk to somebody have never been arrested, handcuffs, I'm okay to feel free because I still have that thing on my head.
Absolutely.
I'm okay to go and he do me a counselor to add and to put me a fresh mind.
That's right. So
Right now, even when I'm driving, I see a police behind me. I feel fear because for almost 42 years, you have never been arrested or do something bad.
That's right. That's right.
Yeah.
Yes. If anyone has resources, and of course the resources that B-InPowerD has, I will be happy to share them. You know, PTSD is real, and it's something that will stay with you, but we will work together to make sure that you get the resources that you need.
Thank you.
James, thank you. Goobs, thank you.
You're welcome.
Jessica, thank you for being here, but thank you for being who you are. Thank you for showing up for your brother. And I thank you both for, in a week's time, you know, James hasn't been home long, but I was committed to making sure that we got his story out there as quickly as possible.
We appreciate it.
Yes.
Thank you. We appreciate
Share this so that others understand what is really happening out there, not just to James, but to many, 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 many people. This has to end.
Has to end.
Yeah. Thank you again for joining the B-InPowerD Movement, and enjoy the rest of your Sunday.
you too. Bye.
Bye, James.